How many superheroes does it take to make us sick? Hey guys, Julian Green here, aka Juju from Juju Reviews, and right now we are going to talk about superhero saturation. Alright, we're in the middle of the week and it is Wednesday. It has been great for comic book fans. From the release of the Daredevil Season 2 on Netflix last weekend, and this weekend coming up we have the premiere of Batman vs. Superman. There's a lot to be excited about. But this begs a big question, from superheroes being in television to superheroes being in cinema to them being a mainstay in comic book lore. Is it too much, and when is too much? So let's rewind the clock. I'm gonna take you back to a magical time called 1990, or the 1990s, so to speak. Alright, back in the day, you didn't have a lot of superhero movies coming out. Superhero movies were pretty much like a niche type of audience thing. Other than Tim Burton's Batman Forever and Blade later on that year, we sure didn't get a lot of superhero movies to look forward to. But then in that golden age of superhero cinema, we had classics like Batman and Robin, The Mask. Yeah, that's a comic book property, look it up. The Guyver. If you don't remember The Guyver, Guyver was a movie starring Mark Hamill. Yes, Luke Skywalker, the Trickster, and the Joker was in a superhero movie that was basically Star Kid all grown up. You remember Star Kid. You remember Star Kid. Star Kid came a couple years after that, but that just lends credits to my no superheroes in the 90s idea. But not only that, it got a sequel. There were two in the 90s and nobody liked them. You want to see a picture? Let's show the picture. You had other classics like Judge Dredd, Spawn, Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles was aight. Still. The Meteor Man. Does anybody know the Meteor Man? I mean, you don't even have to know what the Meteor Man is. Just know that that Disney Channel original movie, Up, Up, and Away, Meteor Man was his dad. So basically this was a prequel to Up, Up, and Away. Before he put on that hot costume, he was part of a meteorite. As well as the original Captain America movie. Yes, that happened too. The original Fantastic Four before they sucked. Honestly, I do think that one's better than what we got this last year, so. Blank Man! Blank Man. And if you want to count this, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they're superheroes and it's a movie, so bam. But that's it. There wasn't a lot to look forward to in terms of superhero or comic book movies. Let's fast forward to 2000, where in my opinion that was when people started taking comic book movies seriously with the release of X-Men. And this movie blew me away. I grew up watching the cartoons, I grew up reading a little bit of the comic books, and when I saw the movie I was pleasantly surprised even as a kid. I was 8 years old when this came out, so this was extremely badass. And the cool part about this movie was it actually treated these comic book characters not in a campy sense, but it made you take these characters seriously. The themes were great, the acting was great, everything about that movie was great. Well, except this scene.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
Ugh. Actually, let me take that back. The original comic book movie that made me take these characters seriously was Blade. Now beforehand, I didn't know Blade was a Marvel character, but you can't blame me because that movie was rated R and man was it hard. Got Wesley Snipes at his absolute best, kicking absolute ass, but X-Men is what put it in the mainstream, so. And then after that, you got movies like Spider-Man, which was fantastic, Spider-Man 2, X-Men 2, Batman Begins, Spider-Man 3, Iron Man, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I'm not naming all those films, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Man of Steel. So now you guys get the idea. There's been a lot of comic book movies in like the last 15 to 20 years. But here lies the problem. Comic book movies have now evolved into their own genre. I mean, let's just put yourselves into Blockbuster times. Remember Blockbuster, Hollywood Video? You're walking down the aisle, you're walking through your horror, you're walking through your romance, but right before you get to that version, you skip the superhero section. Can you imagine an entire aisle dedicated to superhero movies? Yeah, if we had a time machine, we could go back in the past, that's what we'll be seeing. Some people argue that it may be too much. Nowadays, it just seems like they'll greenlight anything. I mean, from Guardians of the Galaxy, which was awesome, to The Spirit, which was kinda not, to 300, which was a little so-so in my opinion. Action's great, but the movie's just kinda To Watchmen, I loved it, a lot of people didn't. I mean, the same way movies are done off of books, then there's a lot of movies that are now being done off of comic books. And ever since the Avengers, the thing's only gotten bigger. I mean, look at this. Before 2012, there was no such thing as a cinematic universe. But ever since Marvel coined that term, everybody's trying to do a cinematic universe. We have a universal cinematic universe with monsters. Transformers is trying to do their own cinematic universe. X-Men's doing their own cinematic universe. And Spider-Man, they tried. Now this thing's gotten more out of hand that now Star Wars is doing their own cinematic universe. I'm not gonna lie, I am excited for Rogue One. I really am. But I keep asking myself, when is enough too much? A lot of people are starting to say that they're getting superhero fatigue. You know what? I can't blame them. In this day and age, we're now getting about 3 to 4 superhero movies a year. That is a lot, considering that in years past that we have to wait 2 to 3 years in between to get that superhero movie. Spider-Man came out in 2002, Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004. Then when the X-Men came out in 2000, then we have to wait 2 more years for that Spider-Man movie. But now let's look at the slate for 2016 so far, shall we? We had Deadpool, Captain America Civil War, Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, and Doctor Strange all in the same year. That's just unheard of. Well, it was, not so much now. Now people who think they're fans when they're really not because they only watch the movies and haven't read a comic book in their life are saying, oh, we're seeing the same old origin story. This is so stupid. I don't want to see this freaking movie because we don't care about the origin story. I'm sorry, but if you know comic books, you gotta know the origin story of a character when you're rebooting it, starting a new character, whatever. You gotta tell that origin story. Now, unless you want to get really creative and drop them into the middle of their life and then tell that origin story in increments, that's fine too. But you gotta tell how the character got there to understand where they're going. One example I always like to use is the Dark Knight trilogy. Batman Begins came out in 2005, long before anybody was thinking about a shared cinematic universe. So you have Batman Begins in 2005, you have The Dark Knight in 2008, and what movie also came out in 2008? Iron Man. So Iron Man, when it first came out, it was not considered to be the one that was going to jump off this Marvel Cinematic Universe. It started off with them making a great movie, a great standalone movie, which is why that movie is so well done. And at the end of the movie, when the movie's all said and done, the directors, the producers got together and they said, how can we really mess with people? I got it, sir, I got it. Talk to me, buddy. Let's put, I don't know, Nick Fury in the end of the movie? Yeah, but who will we cast? Well, I hear Samuel Jackson's not busy. Alright, call him up. And then we get the after credit scene of Iron Man, which made everyone go nuts. Before that, they still didn't know what they were doing. They would just kind of say, hey, the reaction's cool, but let's see how much more we can push this. Fast forward a couple months, Incredible Hulk is all done, but who do they put in at the end of that movie? Tony Stark. That cemented the Marvel Cinematic Universe is actually a thing about to happen. All while The Dark Knight is focusing on making its one standalone awesome movie. Now let's fast forward to 2012. Marvel has already had 3, count them, 3 Marvel movies by the time Dark Knight was able to go to Dark Knight Rises. So in between it, they were squeezing all these things together just to prepare for the Avengers. The Avengers comes out, so later on that summer, The Dark Knight Rises also comes out, and Avengers was a hit. It was so awesome, it blew my mind. Seeing all these characters together was just the coolest thing that I've ever seen. I've been waiting for something like that to happen in a movie for a long time. But then Dark Knight Rises comes along, and it's telling its own standalone story that rounds out its own trilogy. And what do people think at the end of the movie? Oh, well, so if Joseph Gordon-Levitt is, like, you know, the new Batman now, then when is he gonna be with Superman? Are they gonna make the Justice League? No! What you thinking? Christopher Nolan set out to make a great Batman trilogy. He didn't set out for a Marvel Cinematic Universe. Keep in mind, the Batman Begins came out in 2005. Iron Man came out in 2008, which is considered the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Christopher Nolan was not thinking about no kind of connected universe at that point. The studio wasn't thinking about it. And if they were thinking about it, not with this trilogy. And the fact that they tried to put Dark Knight in the category of a cinematic universe like Marvel was just creating, it was just not valid. And then this is when the sickness started to come in. Now every superhero movie that comes out, or every superhero show that is on the air, everyone feels the need that it needs to connect to a bunch of different things. They forget, not only 6 years ago, they weren't worried about another thing connecting to the other. They weren't worried about a cinematic universe. They were only worried about seeing that movie that day, getting out and talking about it later. That's it. But ever since Marvel came out with the Avengers, everything needs to connect to something, and it's already leaked out into the rest of Hollywood. Now in this day and age, it's starting to get harder and harder for more artists to get out there and create their own original works because it doesn't connect to anything and it's not based on something we don't know already. One of the biggest complaints I hear is, why isn't Grant Gustin going to be represented in Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice? How come he's not going to be in the DCEU? Well, that's because that's its own self-contained thing. It's a television show. Well, Marvel did it. That doesn't mean they have to do it too. It could tell its own separate stories without having to worry about what the movie studios are doing. If you guys don't recall, Marvel Studios are not really that fond of Marvel Television right now. Yeah, they're all in the same company, but it's still that infighting because Marvel Studios literally destroyed S.H.I.E.L.D. to mess up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You thought the producers of that show actually knew what was going on? Granted, it was the better for that show because it was pretty boring up until then, but still, they literally tried to blow up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So think about the pressure of having a TV show that you have to write according to what's happening in the cinematic universe. That's gotta be a lot of hard work juggling a whole bunch of balls in the air. But you gotta do it because Marvel did it. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see Grant Gustin as the Flash in the movie universe, but it would just ruin the self-contained story that is happening on the Flash right now, and I think that show's amazing. Nowadays, as the popularity in these movies soars, the popularity in the comic book also soars along with it. Now, the question is not whether are these movies going to go away or not. The real question is, are they going to put more diversity into those movies? So now, before this whole thing goes the way of the Western, or so Steven Spielberg put it, now we're going to have to open a whole new can of worms in order to get it right. That's why the comic books are catering more towards the movies now. You think that Falcon becoming the new Captain America was comic book writing, right? Sure. Had nothing to do with the contracts of Chris Evans at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love superheroes. I'm ranting here, but I do love superheroes. But it gets to the point where you gotta ask, is this too much? And not only is diversity a thing, because we're still waiting for that first female superhero film to come out. Still waiting for that black superhero-led film to come out too. Not still. But now, thanks to Deadpool, everyone's gonna hop on the R-rated superhero train. Deadpool was the first one that was actually connected to another cinematic universe that actually worked. And now they're trying to make Batman be Superman rated R? Seriously? As long as Superman is in your movie, you're not gonna make your movie rated R. I mean, Henry Cavill is an alright Superman, but from here on out, I'm gonna affectionately refer to him as Scowly McScowlface. Because all he does is scowl. Superman is supposed to be about hope and joy, and Metropolis is supposed to be this nice, fantastic place where anything can happen. It's supposed to be the New York to Detroit's Gotham. But now we got a brooding Superman who might as well just put on the Batman cape himself and they could be the Bat Twins. That does sound like a good idea for a movie though. But I'm telling you, Superman is about 2 steps away from being Batman himself. Are you serious, man? Can we remember like one time where Superman actually cracked a smile? About 90% of his runtime he's either sulking or scowling. So we're calling him Scowly McScowlface. But I digress. Back to Batman vs Superman being rated R. Why do you need to make that rated R? What could you possibly have done to make that movie rated R? Now there's a bunch of movies that are getting the green light to be made rated R. Maybe we might get that Spawn reboot that we've been waiting for. Now maybe this might be a good thing because we might finally get to see a Moon Knight film done right. Like there's some characters that you know they gotta be rated R. Wolverine should have been rated R or else we would have never got that really crappy X-Men Origins movie. Deadpool totally deserved it. But think about this, would you make Spider-Man rated R? What, will he spin his webs while flipping people off just... No! I bet you he's Scowly McScowlface under that mask too in a rated R movie. So many bandwagoners. But, are we getting superhero fatigued? I think so. Will these superhero movies go out one day? Yes, they will. But until then, we gotta enjoy it. I've been waiting for superhero movies to come out like this in this multitude since I was a kid. Now that we finally got them, I feel like that kid at the dinner table, the little kids table, on Thanksgiving who ate too much cake. Yup, somebody help me. But hey, I'm loving this time of superhero movies. Right now for me, I'm saying, hey, keep them coming. As long as you can make great film, I'm fine with that. But don't start churning them out the woodwork just thinking like, hey, this might work. Because I think the day that happens is the day we'll officially be done with this. And now I'm gonna binge watch Daredevil because that's getting great reviews. And I can't wait for Batman vs Superman because there's no way a movie with Batman and Superman could be terrible, right? Oh my god! Alright guys, it's been real. Until then, I love you. I'm Juju and I'm out.